Hey everybody, John Paduchak here. Welcome to the Learn, Turn, and Earn podcast and Hangcast. And today, of course, we always have Ted,
Hello.
our co-host, and we've got our special guest, David Bear. And David Bear, a little bit about David. David, former New York City Jew, big wine connoisseur.
I'm still a Jew.
I know, how can you be a former New York City Jew? I was going to ask you that question. And then, of course, David has really become our go-to guy when we're looking for help with Facebook advertising, 22 Social, and we've been both, I think, doing a lot of different things with our social media posting lately. Mm-hmm. And I love that you've created this new course, Profitable Social Posting, correct?
It's called Profitable Posting. It leaves me open for lots of opportunity to talk about whatever I want.
There you go. So is there anything you'd like to add to that?
No, I think that's fairly accurate, despite the wrong name of the course. I think you're right on target.
Excellent.
Now, I do work with my clients a lot on Facebook advertising because it's where we start conversations. But I think as you even have discovered with working with a lot of your clients, people get excited about the solution before they actually really understand their problem. And so very often we start talking about Facebook ads, but we end up finding a solution somewhere else, depending on what a business's needs might be.
Very true.
And that's one of the reasons I'm sort of all over the place with the things that I do, is to be able to accommodate a broad range of needs.
Well, another thing too, Facebook advertising, social posting, it all kind of flows together. One of the things we realized when we started Hangcasting is that social media plays a very important role in it. And so it's kind of the glue that ties it all together, and the same is really true with Facebook advertising.
Sure.
With all the posting.
Yep.
One of the big questions that I wanted to start talking to you about is, so many people I think today want to get started with Facebook advertising, mm-hmm. and this is probably the biggest kind of leap-off point that I can think of is that,
okay.
What are some of the best ways for them to kind of get started with us? It's kind of one of those things we look at and we go, oh my gosh, it looks so daunting, but I love what people are doing with it. I love seeing that, the analytics, the way that I can interact with people and really get people's attention, but there's that fear of kind of getting started. What do you say to those folks?
Yeah, David, before you answer that question, just tell people how you got to where you are in today's climate.
Sure.
Just a little story first before you answer that one, please.
Sure. Who am I and why am I here? There was I think we had a vice presidential candidate who said that once in a debate. Remember that, John?
Mm-hmm.
I come from two different industries. I worked in the performing arts, where I ran performing arts centers and managed shows, but I also dealt with marketing back then, and back in I think 1996, if my memory is correct, is when I started my very first email marketing campaigns to start selling tickets to live events, and then I left that end of the event world and started producing trade shows and events in the wine industry, where I spent about a decade as a marketing director for a couple of different wine importers here in the U.S. And that ultimately led to my consulting with wineries here in Oregon, where I now live, and helping them figure out direct-to-consumer marketing strategies, which was about the point that I really started adding adding a lot of weight to the social media and online marketing that I had sort of been dabbling in all along and using as a component of what I was doing. Suddenly I was working with clients who were looking for ways to build relationships with customers who were going to come into their business, maybe spend a little bit of time with them, but then go off, back to their homes wherever they lived outside of the region. They were just here visiting, coming to taste wine, for example. And how do you continue that relationship and build on that one visit to the winery and develop those people into lifelong customers, maybe wine club members, for example. And so that's where I really first started diving into the power of social media, and really this was 2010, 2011 when Facebook was really starting to do more interesting stuff, not nearly as interesting as they've been doing in the last couple of years, in terms of the amount of resources that they offer advertisers to be able to really connect beautifully with and target potential clients. And so that's a bit of background. Does that do it for you, Ted?
Certainly does, David, and that gives a little insight for people watching this, who you are, where you come from, and why you're an expert on what you do.
Sure. So now that I've done that, I've sort of forgotten the question that Ted was asking.
So phase two, what I was asking earlier was that one of the things that I see, and I know even myself in getting started with Facebook advertising, it can be kind of daunting to get going.
Yep.
And how do you kind of address that with people that are getting started? I mean, I know you actually do the Facebook advertising for a lot of folks, but people who are kind of getting started themselves, what advice would you give them in getting going?
Well, so actually, I do a bit of outsourced Facebook advertising management, and I have a team actually back in Philadelphia that does a lot of fulfillment. When somebody approaches me and says, we want to use Facebook ads, it's a laborious task and it's a challenge. But I actually spend most of my time teaching my clients how to do it themselves, because the answer to your question is, there's an important structure to building a successful ad campaign, and most businesses back when Google AdWords started, they said, "Oh yeah, we'll just do it ourselves," and lost a ton of money. And the same type of thing happens with Facebook ads too. Is that you just throw some money at it, you think you know what you're doing, and just the nature of the psychology of the end user is something that most businesses overlook. We don't think about the fact that this is social media, not a place where people are going and shopping, right? So a lot of businesses start on the wrong foot by putting very promotional, salesy messaging out there when it really is not effective in this particular media. So here's how I start the conversation when somebody says, "Hey, can you teach me a little bit about this?" The first questions I start asking are, what are you trying to get out of it? What is the goal that you have with this? And it could be anything from adding people to an email list to getting people to just come to our website and see what we do, or bringing people to a live event, or making a specific sale of a specific item. And each of those answers is going to really influence the course of action that I would take in setting up a campaign. So that's sort of just the starting point. Beyond that, you then sort of have to go through the steps. Okay, well, let's talk about, as I mentioned before, there's a psychology of what people are doing when they're on this platform. Most of us, are using these things, right? And we're scrolling through, and we want to make sure that that we have people's attention, and that we can stop that scroll that they're doing for just a moment to get their attention. So what is it that we're going to put in front of them that's going to engage them to the point that they are going to take action on whatever it is that we're trying to get them to do next? And so there's a process there. And the hint is, it doesn't start with a promotional message. It starts with making friends with them. It starts with developing a relationship. And so, we can dive deeper into a lot of this, but those are the types of things that I start asking a potential client or somebody who wants to learn about this, because it helps them think about all of this in a very different way from where they were thinking in the beginning. Hey, I want to put ads up on Facebook and get customers. Right, because the other thing you got to have in mind is, where am I wanting to bring them to? Is it a webinar I'm going to do? Is it some kind of lead generation piece? Am I going to bring them into a page or group or community? And all of those have a different kind of strategy. Yep.
So I was just going to say, what you said there, David, is probably correct on any form of marketing that you want to do, and that's what a lot of people don't realise is you've got to build up a relationship, engagement, so people can get to know you. Once you break those barriers down, then you can start marketing to that person. And there's just so many people just don't get that.
Yeah. So here's where, Ted, that's a really good point, and I think that regardless of the medium, even going to a local networking meeting. Last night I was at one of the 57,000 pubs that we have in town, drinking beer, talking to people. I think we outnumber per capita the amount of pubs you have, Ted. At least in Portland, Oregon, we do. And so I was chatting with people, but it was all about developing relationships, learning about them, and so we do this in offline just like we do online. Where Facebook is different is the amount of data that it has collected itself over the 10.5 years that it's been in existence. It knows a lot about us. And they have data partners who also share and aggregate that data. So things from credit card purchases or other places where data might be mined sounds like such an ominous word, but our actions online, our retail exchanges, our activities in our lives are tracked in many ways for the benefit of marketers. And Facebook has all of this information. And so one of the magical things about Facebook ads is that I have the ability to introduce my business or a client's business or a product or whatever it may be in a very targeted way with a very, very targeted message based on what we call audience in Facebook that we sculpt, that we identify, and we want to put that message in front of them. So if I'm a local business online marketing consultant, and I have a product out there that I want to promote to dentists, right? And I want dentists in a certain area. Well, I can go into Facebook and I can identify dentists by profession, by their connection to professional organizations, by the fact that they're business owners. I can also identify a subcategory of those dentists who have a proven track record of paying for marketing products or materials, right? So not only am I targeting somebody in the category, the profession that I'm after, but I can also target them based on the fact that they buy the stuff that I sell, right? And then I can geo-target them based on where they're located. And I can niche down to what might seem like a very small audience. I have, 2 billion people on Facebook. Why would I only market to 1,823? Well, it's because that is a very, very targeted list that is much more likely to respond to the message that I'm putting out there. And Facebook has that data to help me identify them. My job then is to figure out, okay, now that I know who these people are, what messages am I going to put in front of them that's going to stop that scroll, get their attention, and get them to take action on what it is that I have to say.
Now that brings up an interesting point, which most people are like, how do I figure out who in the heck these people are? How do I identify the avatar of the person that I want to target? Yeah. So you have any thoughts on how they can get going with that?
Yeah. I just came from a breakfast meeting where I was doing a presentation on this very subject, and I had an attorney who does intellectual property asking me this very question. He said, how do I identify these people? And the fact is that most of us in our businesses have many different types of customers out there. The best answer I can give is that you may want to start with your ideal customer, right? So one customer may be, somebody who is willing to and able to pay you, right? That's probably a good customer to try to sculpt. So identifying that customer based on the fact that, hey, they have money and they're happy to spend it with me, that's a good avatar to model, as opposed to, the easy sell but you can't retain them because they're price resistant or whatever. So knowing that, and you can take an actual customer you have and say, wow, if Sally is great. I wish I had hundreds of customers just like her. Well, what is it about Sally that makes her so great, A, as a customer, but B, what does she do? I mean, is she an avid golfer? Does she like to shop at Nordstrom? Those are things we can find out. And if those things are tangential to what you do or appropriately tie into the type of client you'd like to get. So, I mean, golf could be a sport that is inaccessible to people who don't have a lot of money. So maybe that's a way to. I'm making this all up, so maybe I'm wrong on that front. I don't know a thing about golf. But it's a lifestyle sport, right? Or maybe they purchase luxury goods, or they own certain types of vehicles. You can identify people based on those things. So does that help a little bit, John? Who's just disappeared for a moment there?
That's okay. That you've explained it really well. I mean, so when you get a target, same as we'll take your golf example, especially because you said you don't know anything about it. So what better one to take?
Yeah.
Would you actually take that golf and then start niching it down from there? Because like with everything, it doesn't matter if you do it on Google or anywhere else.
Yep.
That is the big market. So you can spend money on golf but not get anywhere until you start niching it down. So would I be right in saying that?
Yeah, okay. So it depends on the on what it is we're selling in this scenario. But yes, I would say that going very broad in any what Facebook calls interest, right, is not going to be helpful if it's the only thing that you're targeting. But when you compound that with other criteria, like I was giving the example earlier of dentists who are in a specific place and have a proven history of making purchases of marketing stuff, right? So you can do the same thing with golf. You can say they're interested in golf, and maybe they're also subscribers to golf magazines, and compounding these things on top of each other can really help with that. Now, let me. I'm going to get ever so slightly technical for a moment. When you add interests into an audience that you're targeting, these are actually not compounded. These are this or this or this. And there are some external tools that you can. Right now, Facebook doesn't allow you to change it to an and interest, compounding interest. So there are external tools like a service called Ad Espresso. Or there's a plugin for or an extension for Chrome called something like Audience Intersect that you can actually add what they call included interests, so that you're compounding the seriousness, the depth of an interest, of an individual by saying yes, they're interested in all three of these things, and that means that they're probably pretty serious as opposed to passively interested in golf.
Yep.
Does that
Great.
address the
Great
question?
answer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sounds good. And then I'm not sure if this is quite the place to take this twist, but I know for those of us who do have like an emailing list or whatever, we can certainly bring those people into custom audiences and analyze who they are and get a better idea of
So
customers
one other great way of using Facebook ads, and again, all depends on the goal. And so one great way is to continue your conversation with your current client. So let's say those wineries that I do work with, right? What do you want to do with them? Well, maybe they send out an email every few weeks or quarterly saying, hey, we have a new offer, wine's just getting released. If you want it, come and place your order. But they can also take that email list, like you said, John, and upload that list into Facebook. As long as Facebook identifies those email addresses as corresponding with a Facebook account, you can place an ad in front of those people as well. And so they can put that same message out there saying, hey, we just had a new release. Want to place your order? Click here. And they have a higher likelihood of getting more sales because they're attacking that audience from two angles. The added advantage of being able to upload your list is that you can also form in Facebook something called a lookalike audience. And that's incredibly powerful because it basically allows you to take all that data that Facebook has about all of its members, scan your list, try to figure out all the commonalities between those people, and then spit out a list of somewhere between 2 and 24 million other people who are just like them. That can be incredibly powerful.
Hugely.
Yeah.
Because otherwise it would be hard to get to that data.
Yeah.
Plus have that kind of an impact where you get that many more people as part of a lookalike audience.
So we're go ahead.
Yeah, so I was gonna say, so going from here, let's talk a little bit about, okay, so we've gotten to this point, we've identified our avatar, we've got an audience in mind, lookalike audience, or our own custom audience. What are maybe some of the best things to start to use for Facebook advertising? Do we use our own posts? Maybe do a webinar? What are some of the best directions to go with actually starting our advertising process?
Sure. So there's a few different angles here, and again, it all relates to that goal. One thing that is very important is, first of all, you cannot advertise without a Facebook fan page. The fan page has to sponsor the ad. And one thing that you might consider, it holds a little bit less weight than it used to, but that you might consider is running page-like campaigns to get the right people onto your page. Now, I say it's not as important as it used to be because people don't see page content organically anymore. You really have to make an investment to get most of that stuff seen. But there is some organic reach on that stuff if people are actually actively participating on your page. And the way to manipulate that is to have the right people there and put the right content in front of them, and sort of start the ball rolling by maybe boosting a post for $1 or $2, getting people seeing it and interacting with it, and then there's organic traffic that comes as a result of Facebook seeing that there is some activity. So that's one place that you may start. You can also use, if you have the right people as your fan page fans, you can use that audience very effectively to target a lot more posted boosts at a much lower cost than a lot of the other targeting that you might do to people who you're not already in a relationship with. Right? So what is it you're posting is, I think, part of what your question was. And I think that you could really be posting a broad range of things, curated content to just get engagement in the example I gave. But the better type of content is value-based, educational, fun, informational, entertaining, get-to-know-me kind of content, which is the building the relationship process. Because really, you don't want to go right in for the sale. You want to give them stuff that is going to be interesting and valuable to them. Position yourself as somebody who they're interested in receiving information from, and then maybe you get them over to your website. They read a blog post. They watch a video. You can also put a little retargeting pixel on that page so that you can track that they've been there. Maybe you can use that in the future to say, hey, this person identified themselves as having an interest in the subject of whatever was on that page, and then use that to serve them ads in the future on that subject. So that's really sort of the warm-up phase. It's like when you go to a live taping of a sitcom or a game show, right? And there's a warm-up person who comes out to get you all energized and going. Well, this is the same thing. You want to really get the crowd interested and excited about the fact that you're delivering the goods by giving away great stuff. We see this as Ted said, we see this in all other areas of our marketing and online marketing or offline marketing as well. That's the best practice I would recommend, is bringing them through an initial get-to-know-me phase. Now, that doesn't mean that you can't have a call to action wherever you're bringing them. So maybe I have a really terrific blog post saying how fabulous dental implants might be and why you should consider them. Oh, and by the way, if you'd like to make an appointment, click here. Right? Most people won't click there, but you can then track that and then put future ads in front of them. Now that they're familiar with the topic, here's the promotional ad on why they should make their dental implant appointment. Again, something I know absolutely nothing about. I just pull these subjects out of thin air.
That's good. Nothing wrong with that. One of the things I think too that kind of perplexes people a lot is creating that first ad. Like if they're creating an actual ad. Do you have any tips or guidance on that?
Yeah. My first recommendation is scroll through and see what is interesting to you. What would you click on? And the likelihood is, and I have a whole section in my course where I just do that. It's a screen screenshot. I don't remember the live one where I'm actually talking over it, and I just scroll through my newsfeed and talk about the quality of the various promoted posts that I see there. Some are blatant promotional ads, and some feel like they belong on Facebook like my friend would have shared it. It's the latter that you want to be going for, right? You want to avoid something that really sticks out and looks like an ad, especially if we're bringing people to the type of content that I was just talking about. You want to be promoting posts that are going to feel like they naturally belong in the context of social media.
Right. And the other thing that I love over there now that's, I don't know if it's new or it's been around for a while, but you can go up to the right corner, you can click and say, why am I being shown this ad?
Yes.
So it gives you a lot of background as to, oh man, where did this thing come from? Why are you coming after me with it? So that I found a lot, was kind of helpful for me.
Yeah, and then you can also say, I don't want to see things like this anymore, and that will have an effect on the ad's performance, the amount that the advertiser is being charged. Facebook back in, I want to say April of 2015, it was May, added something called a Relevance Score. And it's a 10-point scale, and that is a culmination of people either liking or taking positive action on your ad, and people saying, I don't like this, I don't want to see this. And they will then determine where on that 10-point scale your ad falls after there have been 500 ads served. What happens is, if you get a 2 or 3 out of 10 score, you're going to start paying a lot more per action, versus a 9 or a 10 score. You're going to actually be saving money, and you're going to get a better cost per click rate, and it's also showing you that your ad's working, your ad's doing something good, or at least you're getting a positive response. So a little trial and error and a little testing is always important at the front end of an ad campaign. And I typically say, you don't need a lot of money to do this. If you invest $5 a day, which is the minimum for a click-to-website ad, and there's different types of ads that you can run, but $5 a day for 3 days, you're going to get a ton of data that you will then be able to tweak and improve your ad if it's needed, or just keep doing what you're doing.
And now I think this kind of brings us to our favorite topic to talk about, 22 Social. Because I think we're there. Are we there?
I don't know what there is, but sure. Well, John, I have been using 22 Social for maybe about 2+ years at this point, and I do a lot of stuff with it. And we haven't talked about what it is yet, and we'll get to that in a moment. But you approached me at some point. Actually, I think I approached you to ask if you knew 22 Social because I saw that you were in one of the groups with it, and you said, "Well, yeah, I have it, but I actually haven't used it very much or at all." But if you see the stuff that I do, and I'm pretty sure you do, I use it a lot. And it's become one of my go-to solutions for a really broad range of Facebook activities, including advertising. So do you want to do a quick introduction to what it is and what your perspective is on it, and then I'll jump in.
Yeah, I can tell a little bit why I liked it initially, and one of the things that kind of attracted us to it was that people were doing Hangouts with 22 Social, and they're using it as a way to capture leads from that. And that's kind of the way that I've seen it used the most is, somebody doing video and then having a lead capture as part of their 22 Social piece. But it's literally like having a webinar right on Facebook via 22 Social. And so that's probably the most prevalent way that I've seen it used and the way that we were looking to use it the most.
Sure.
But I know it's used for a lot more than that.
So I'll show you two examples of how I'm using it at the moment, and I'm sharing my screen now. If you can see that, let me know.
Yes.
Okay, great. So this is my Barra Marketing fan page, and we're looking at. So these things up here are called tabs, and you can put lots of different types of custom content in these tabs, or you could, you put your videos there. You can change the order of what shows up there. In this case, the start here and the weekly hangout are always sitting right here on my page, and I can run ads directly to them if I want, which I do. In this case, this is a weekly hangout that I do, and John, you were a guest on it.
I was.
I think you were
a while back,
our very first guest. Yeah, we're into I think our 23rd or 24th episode so far. So it's been going well. So right now we have Carol Bremner talking about Paperly and a Udemy course that she's just put together. This is my co-host Sarah. This is me. And what people will find when they get to this page here on Facebook is this little login through Facebook. So when I click on that, it actually will authenticate my identity through my Facebook login. There I am, and that's my email address. Now the world knows it, and I go ahead and click confirm. I can change that email address if I want, but what this does is it helps authenticate the fact that that was my address. I don't have to enter anything. Facebook says, yes, we've identified it. Now, this little top portion here is my admin area that the end user wouldn't see. Let me try to click that closed. Okay. And then we have an autoplay video. It's running a little slower because we have, let me see if I can mute it, right? Because we're doing a Hangout right now, so it's not running as quickly as it might always. But we have a conversation with somebody. Anyway, so here's Carol wiping her eyes. That probably was a bad point in the video to show you. Doing a live demo on Paperly, and then we do about 30-minute conversation with a little call to action at the end to learn more, and there's a button right down here where you can click to go get the report that Carol's done on Paperly and how you can use it in your business. So we do this once a week. We put a new one up each week, and we've been having great success with it. And then I'll show you one more, but if you have any questions in the interim, let me know, John.
Okay, well.
I'm guessing that means no, I don't. Okay, so
that would be correct.
Okay. So here's one more, and there's a video that's about to load and play, and I want to just stop that before it does. So this is my lead capture mechanism, and I have a book that I've written. Okay, again, close this. So it's a free giveaway, 7 awesome free Facebook marketing tools that you're probably not using yet, but you should. I just love that title. It's probably not a great title, but a same situation, right? So add people to my list by making this offer. They can opt into my list here, and then I have social proof from people who have gotten it, and so that's also really helpful. But you can have a live hangout here, for example, and have a comment stream down below and answer questions. So just like you might do in Webinar Jam or in live stream or something like that, you can do this with a live event in one of these apps. And so what happens is when somebody jumps inside the app, I actually have this video. So I have headline says that your report's on its way, but before you go, and then I have a video offering a $7 purchase of a guide on Facebook ad retargeting, a subject that we talked about a little bit, and people can then click here and go and pay for it, and you know, I maybe cover the cost of running some ads to this app. So here's the really fabulous thing about it. I can identify, and let's see if this loads or not. I think I'm sharing full screen, right? So did you see that pop up?
Yes.
Okay. So I can identify the display image and the specific content that goes out when it's shared, but I can also just take this and post it and run that as a post and boost that post, and that's my ad. So this is all, you know, built into the platform, as is so much other stuff, and it's very, very easy. You know, your show is all about how to learn something, do it, and turn it around quickly to be able to profit from it. Well, these things that you've been looking at, they're all based on templates. They are super, super easy to make. And so I can just, you know, take one of these. I've just changed the entire look of it. I've changed the font there. And let's stop that video. But this stuff is super, super easy to use once you get over the quick, you know, 15-minute learning curve of just navigating the inside of the app. I absolutely love it. And then it does some other incredibly sophisticated things as well. So, you know, which we don't need to dive into here, but perhaps sometime when we do a 22 social training, we can do that.
Sounds good.
I'm gonna come.
You know,
come
it's just
back
kind of a
here.
nice. I like. Whoa, what happened there? They saw me. Hey, but it's nice to kind of see the overview, and I don't know what Ted thinks about it, but I know it's something we've talked about a lot. You know, being able to kind of simulcast what we're doing in a bunch of different places, and 22 Social was one of the things that, you know, you and I had talked about early on for that.
Yeah, I think. Go ahead, Ted.
I was just going to say, yeah, I mean, say all these things are useful and everything else, and some of the reason we didn't get into it, David, is because we were put our resources elsewhere because we wanted to get what we were doing with Google Plus and everything sorted and everything else, and we're now becoming to a stage where we'll be tying in other things with Google, and 22 Social is an ideal platform because we want to tie in Facebook as well as Instagram and various other things. Periscope is another thing that we will be looking into because they're all got their different ways of getting your social what's the word I'm looking for, what you want to say, or whatever you're teaching. It's a way of getting it out to people so they can contact you.
Yeah, I think lots of people kind of struggle on what's the best way to get my marketing message out, and these are a lot of key tools that can kind of really help you to do that. You know, the Periscopes, the Google Hangouts, 22 Social, just it's another avenue to be able to kind of display and distribute. And you know, even we've been playing around too with Tweet Leads, which is another thing that you could run not Facebook ads, but Twitter ads too, and you know, the same kind of approach to, you know, build your list, and because we know that building our list at the end of the day is what we want to accomplish. We want to have that you know, list to be able to keep working with over time.
The other thing that I will say, if you noticed, that when we first started this, John said that David is our go-to person for Facebook marketing. Now, we are experts in what we do, and that's the Google products of Hangouts, YouTube, the G Plus and everything. So even us, we know what Facebook is, we use it to a certain degree and everything else. But if you want to get inside of something so you know how to do things like the ads and everything in Facebook, find somebody that you can go to like David, and you know, you'll save money in the end because your learning curve is cut down because you've gone to a person that can tell you what you should be doing and not be looking here, there and everywhere and spending your time. So that is one good tip, is to find a person who's an expert on that subject on, like David is, on Facebook.
Thank you, Ted. I'm just showing you. I'm using tweet leads right here just to give an example of what that's about. And I actually, again, I'm promoting the fact that I do Facebook. I mean, that's the very first thing in my my bio over here on the left-hand side, and I have this pinned to the top of my Twitter account as well. But when people click on this, it does basically the same thing that that 22 Social does. It authenticates the email address right here, and that's very powerful because I'm getting a lot of opt-ins straight from Twitter through this card being here. So very helpful. Now, I did want to comment on. I'll get out of here again. Sorry about that. I'm not as savvy with what buttons to click in what order to make sure that you're not getting infinity on Hangouts. I did want to comment on the fact that there's all of these tools and there's all of these platforms. John, we talked about this last week when we were doing the social media hangout workshop. The best place to start is with one or two that either A, you're comfortable with, or B, and this is probably more important than your comfort level, B, where the audience you're trying to reach is. Okay?
Right.
Those are the two factors. And so the new hottest thing shouldn't enter into it unless A, you're comfortable, and B, your audience is there.
I would say the other thing to make sure that you do, part and parcel to that is the very first thing that you should start on whatever social media platform you choose is your profile and making sure that that looks good and, is reflective and respectful of what you do. Yeah, I know, I'm tongue-tied today. So that's one of the biggest first mistakes we see people make, when they start out is not spending the time on their story, on their profile, and getting things.
No, you can see you've now seen two of my profiles in my social media, and I try to be very consistent in my branding. I have that goofy. Well, you can see it right below me right here, right? But I have that. I'm not sure that it necessarily reflects who I am and my personality, but it works at branding me and branding my business. And people, it's on my business card. It's on my name tag when I go out to networking meetings, and people know who I am because they've seen me on LinkedIn with that silly picture, and there's consistency there.
Yeah, who could forget that?
Macaulay Culkin in whatever that movie was, Home Alone.
Home Alone. That's exactly it. You get the Home Alone face.
Right.
And kind of wrapping things up a little bit, because I think we've talked a lot about the first steps, some good first steps to getting started with Facebook ads, and not be freaked out and scared and frightened, but take some imperfect action and get going. Why don't we kind of wrap it off here a little bit with you've got a new course out, and for our audience, you've got a spectacular deal for them. So you want to talk a little bit about that and show what you put together?
Sure. Okay. So I have this course that is sometimes named Profitable Social Posting. Sometimes it's named Profitable Posting. I don't know what it is today. And it's actually interesting. I started making videos for a particular client of mine who just wanted me to teach them stuff, and I had no intention of making this into a product. And as I continued to make more videos teaching them, I thought, there's probably other people out there who want to learn these things. And we're all three of us are consumers of all of these courses for marketers online. Here's how you sell T-shirts on Facebook. Here's how you get the lowest clicks on Facebook, or the lowest price for clicks on Facebook. And what I was looking for was, here's how the average small business or entrepreneur who is not interested in building an online marketing empire, they just want to get their local business the attention that it deserves. here's how to use it in an accessible way. So I created a course that really is a range of things inside Facebook. I can share a screen to the course if you want to take a look
Yeah,
at
sure,
it.
go ahead.
Yep. All right.
Because I think it's great. I like the way that you set it up and the different parts of it, and I'm.
All right. So let's actually. I think I got to jump over to it. So I just have moved this over to the Smart Member platform, which I'm really excited about having done. And I think, John, you've been playing around with this platform as well. Is that correct?
Looked at it.
Yeah. So the way that I set this up is just like, here we go. We'll go ahead and visit the course now. Sorry about that. I didn't have it ready, but now it is. Okay. So I have 27 lessons in here at the moment, and I plan to be adding more content as well. I'll just zoom in here. So the first section really covers what fan pages are and how to navigate all of the tools that you have inside of fan pages, because frankly, many people don't use those tabs. There's a great analytical section that most businesses aren't even aware exists, or if they are aware exists, they don't use the information that they have at their fingertips. So I go through that. Then we talk about content and what sort of posts make sense inside Facebook to really help you build that relationship with your audience. We talk about the custom apps like 22 Social and several other things. And then I go deep into advertising, how to build and sculpt an audience, some of the other things that we were talking about in terms of custom audiences, how to target effectively, how to use the ad reporting tool so that you can see the effectiveness of your ad and know what changes or tweaks you might want to make. And then I get into a little bit more high-level stuff in terms of building effective marketing funnels out of Facebook, retargeting, and more. And then I dive into some other things that are tangential to Facebook. I have a tiny little Google Hangout section, but that's not that pales in comparison to what you gentlemen do. And then I've done some interviews with some folks who talk all about their perspective on using Facebook. And if you don't know these names, you should know some of these names. They are all leaders in their respective worlds. So I have this course on offer on my website, and I sell it at $197. I have chatted with John, and we said, well, let's find a way to give you guys access to it at a better price. And so I'm because it's always a work in progress, and because I love having new people as part of my community, we're offering it at $17 for your audience. And I don't know if we have a discount code or whatever your button is. We'll lead them right over to it.
We do. We have a discount code. 17.
Okay. 17.
17.
That'll be easy to remember. It's $17.
$17. So 17 for 17.
Okay. And is there a link that you've put in place for them to?
I did.
Okay.
I put it in the Showcase app, so people will see it. We'll post it around some other places, so
okay, great.
They'll run into it. And I did mention the coupon code in the description, so if you read the description, if folks going to the Showcase app, reading the description, will see that there's a coupon code, and that's what you put in.
Now, I will tell you, I didn't know what the price was going to be on this, and when David was actually just about to announce that, I went $97. And when he hit me with 70, I went, what? And that's why I'm glad you repeated that. That is a hell of an offer, David, so thank you very much for that. That is really, really great.
I want to make it a no barriers offer and still make sure that that I'm getting something for the work that I put into it. But the idea here is that I want to help people really understand this in more depth and make it accessible, and the more that I can help them grow their business and bring them along through the process, the better. And so happy to extend that.
Absolutely, and it's great timing because I can't tell you the number of our peeps who've kind of said, "Wow, I'd like to start Facebook advertising. Really not sure where to start." And this kind of really is great whether you're going to do your own Facebook advertising, or you just want to have enough knowledge to kind of start to formulate your own audience, and maybe you'll have somebody do it professionally for you. Either way, you got a good starting point.
Yep. Great. I should add, I didn't include the fact that we also have a Facebook group, so there's access to ask questions and all of the things that now is obligatory these days, but that's all included as well. So there's further opportunities for education, and as I said, I'll be adding more content to it as people start asking questions and as Facebook changes, because what happens every
changes.
2 months, Facebook changes.
Yeah. We've discovered that too. Google,
Yeah.
Everything changes.
Yeah, I won't say no, but no. But David, just slightly off tangent a little bit. How do you, or where do you think it's going to end up with Google and Facebook? Because at the moment, they're when one does something, the other one then does something else to challenge it. Same as Facebook released that they went into videos. So now Google has gone into something else. Do you think that's going to be good for the actual marketer out there with the courses, and it's only going to get better and better and give more opportunity for people?
I think that probably for the end user things will continue to get better. And you have to remember that all of these companies have multiple competitors on multiple fronts. So Google is fighting with Facebook, but they're also fighting with Apple. And so there's lots of improvement and development. So then you have Apple and Samsung on the smartphone devices. And what does that do? Despite the occasional legal action that they're taking against each other, there's development that is continuing to improve the range of things that we have as businesses and as marketers to help our business. So I don't see a downside to this, because ultimately we're the winners in the arms race of these companies.
Yeah, and you bring up a good point. Just talking about Samsung and Apple, I was thinking that lots of people want to know how to tap into mobile traffic, and Facebook is kind of that first great opportunity to do that. And it's interesting, some of the ad campaign case studies I've seen lately. Some will say, well, here's desktop. Desktop is better for this ad campaign, but mobile was better for this one. Mm-hmm. So there's a lot. We're starting to see a lot of shift to people on mobile devices, and we want to make sure that we take that into account as well.
Every ad campaign that I run to desktop and mobile for a couple of days, and then I see almost all the time that I'm getting clicks from mobile and I'm not getting anything on desktop.
Interesting.
And the numbers are somewhere in the 60 to 70% range of engagement on Facebook in particular is on mobile devices. And so you need to make sure that whatever you're running ad-wise is mobile friendly. Because it's one of the reasons another reason I love 22 Social so much is that everything that they do has been built to be optimized for mobile as well as desktop, and so I can do those hangouts inside of a 22 Social app on a mobile device. It's great.
Nice. I think that's a good ending point for our discussion with this. But it brings up our point in the program where we talk about our final thoughts. So we'll let Ted start.
Well, thank you, John, as usual. My final thoughts. We must now start to look at other platforms, and I think Facebook, Dave is going to hear more from us, because I think that's probably going to be the first avenue that we're going to extend to is Facebook, and I'm sure that he'll be able to help us with our ads.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of opportunity for us to do that. David, your final thoughts?
Well, my final thought is that this world of online stuff is just so overwhelming, and we're just three guys who spend a lot of time looking at it, but there's a lot of people out there who would love to just get their first blog post up or their first, and so don't hesitate to reach out to folks like Ted or John or myself who know this stuff inside and out and can help get your business pointed in the right direction. It's something I think is evident from the kind of conversation that we had today. There's a lot of people in need, and that's what we're here for.
Yeah, and we often said many, many moons ago that we love these kinds of discussions because it's stuff that we talk about anyways. So it's kind of our way of letting people in on the stuff that we talk about. So you kind of get to hear and learn from just stuff that we're going through just like everybody else.
Mhm.
We're trying to keep a thumb on what's happening with technology, and there's an awful lot happening there.
Just don't use that thumb in a Facebook ad because it'll get declined. No thumbs.
No thumbs, no thumbs.
The other thing, as the viewers can see and hear on here, is that although we've got an agenda to this hangout of, we want to cover this, this, and that, if there's something comes up and a thought, you'll hear, well, ask it. And that breaks down, because a lot of times it's the same question a viewer wants to actually ask or a listener wants to ask. And, the time and time again we've heard, oh, I don't know whether I should ask this because that might be a stupid question. The only stupid question is if you don't ask it. You can guarantee there's a lot more people want to know the answer to that question.
Absolutely. So, hey, on that note, thank you everybody who's joined us today for watching us learn, turn, and earn. On behalf of myself and Ted and David, great having you today. I know it's been a long time coming. We've been trying to work this out, and I'm glad that we were able to free up your schedule enough to sneak you in. And aside from that, thanks again, everybody. We appreciate you watching and your support with our program. So we'll see you soon.
Thanks and bye.
It's been a lot of fun. Thank you, guys.
Welcome.